Women of Hudson, Session 4, How to Lighten Your Leader's Load. Maria, thank you for doing this with me again.
Thank you for having me again.
Y'all don't know this, but this is the third time that Maria and I have shot this video. So I think they say third time's a charm.
That's what they say. I guess we're going to find out, right?
Exactly. So we are still talking 360-degree leader. We're still talking about how do we make an impact and a difference where we are, wherever it is in life, inside the organization. And, you know, we've already discussed what does it look like to be a leader, and we've defined leadership as influence, building influence with people, whether that is your boss, whether that is your peers, your spouse, your partner, your children, whatever aspect of your life you look at, leadership is building influence. And so how do we build influence? We build influence by creating relationships and building those. We build influence by adding value to the people around us. So, you know, we defined leadership. We talked about some of the myths involving leadership, right? That you don't have to have a role or a position or a title to be considered a leader. If we define leadership as influence, it doesn't matter, none of that matters. And then I think last month we talked about how to lead yourself well.
Right.
So before you can lead anybody else anywhere, you got to take care of the hot mess express, right? Yeah. So and then today we're going to talk about like actual examples of, you know, ways that we can add value to your boss or your supervisor. So when we talk about how do I build influence with my boss or supervisor, one of the ways is to add value. And here's one of the things that you can do to add value, and that is intentionally lighten your leader's load. And so by lightening your leader's load, you do a few things. One, you're adding value, which is building your influence. Two, you're showing that you're a team player, right? When you do that, it kind of makes you part of something bigger. You're not internalizing everything. You are part of a team. You're part of a bigger thing. And the benefit to you is that it's going to get you noticed.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. In a very positive way. I know that a leader is more apt to notice somebody that is making their life a little bit more easier and taking some things off of their plate than the person that's always adding stuff to their plate.
Yeah. So if you do it once, right, it's nice. If you do it a few times, you know, now I need you. But when you do it on a regular basis, this makes you invaluable to the people that you are serving, to the people that you're working for. So you're not ever going to be out of a job.
Right.
Which you may or may not want. I don't know. All right. So, Maria, what are some things that we can do to lift our leader's load?
So like I said earlier, one of the things is to take something off of your leader's plate. For example, you know, if your leader has 50,000 tasks to do that day and you know that you're capable of removing some of them and doing them yourself, you can take some of their tasks, do them well, and that'll leave up room for your leader to be able to do the important things that you may not be able to handle. That'll make their day go smoother. It'll hopefully make their day less stressful also.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the very, very first thing that we should address before you do any, like, it's so nice that you're over here helping Susie do her job. But before you helped Susie do her job, did you do your actual job?
Right.
So as we think about adding value to our boss, our supervisor, I think the very first thing that we should talk about and think about is you first do your own job well, right? You get paid a salary or you get paid a wage to do a thing. I don't know what that thing is. It's different for all of us, but you get paid money to do something. And if that something is not done on deadline, done well, you know, to making sure that it's accurate and it meets the required standards, then it doesn't matter how much you're helping Susie over here. That is not lightening your leader's load, because now your leader has to worry about, okay, well, your job is not done. So now you're helping Susie, but how do I get your job done?
Right. And I think that actually adds more to your leader's plate because, like you said, then your leader has to figure out, well, who's going to do this job? If, you didn't do it, do I need to step in and do it? And it may prolong things that are on their list to get done because they're waiting for that piece for you to complete so that they can complete the rest.
Yeah. And nobody likes to be micromanaged. And I am of the belief that nobody really likes to micromanage, right?
Right.
And so the times when I feel like a micromanager are times when I feel like I have to, I can't trust somebody to do their job well. That they're showing me, like, they might be doing things well, they might be doing other things well, but if I can't trust that they're doing their job well, and I feel like I have to follow up on that, and I have to, kind of like round them up to get that specific thing done, that's when I feel like I'm micromanaging, and
Right.
I hate that. And I think that most people don't want to be that person.
I agree. I don't think anybody really wants to have to do that. We're all so busy with life and, doing all of the things, exercising, taking care of our health, taking care of mental health. We talked about that in some of the other sessions about, taking care of yourself, and you just don't have time. It's enough to have to manage yourself. And then if you're in that position in your job that you are required to manage other people, micromanaging just takes it to another level. It's a whole additional level of stress.
And I think that happens when you don't focus on doing your job well. So listen, in the vein of adding value to somebody else, focus on yourself, right? Focus on yourself first. Make sure that you're hitting the deadlines. You're learning everything that you need to do your job well. You're doing it and you're, up to the required standards and all that. And then next, so Maria, what do you think, what difference does it make to your boss when you come to them with problems and you don't have any suggestions or solutions, as opposed to researching the issue prior to bringing it to their attention and then having maybe some suggestions or a solution or something?
I think it makes all the difference in the world. When I have discovered a problem, I've always went to my boss and said, hey, I have found this problem. This is why I think the problem exists. This is how I think we can solve the problem. And I'll usually come up with a few different ways, A, B, or C. Now, and there's a lot of times that A, B, or C may not be right, and it may be a D option that my boss provides based on the A, B, and C that I gave him. So it just makes my leader or my boss recognize more that, hey, she's trying to solve the problems. She's not counting on me 100% to solve them. And I think it helps lighten their load.
Yeah, 100% it does. I just view the employee differently that comes to me. They are more valuable to me. Like, bottom line, the person that comes to me and is like, oof, we have an issue. But like, I did a little research. Here's what I found out. This is why it's happening. This is how we can prevent it from happening in the future. Or, hey, like, I've seen this. What if we try this? Here's a suggestion. Or at the very least, like, I looked at it and I found out why it happened, but I don't really know how to move forward. But here's why it happened, right? Like, some sort of research involved in it. I definitely find those people more valuable. Like, those are the people that I want to be on my team. And they make my job so much easier, right? I feel like I can trust them. I feel like they have the company's best interests at heart.
Right.
And so, yeah, when you talk about how do I add value to my leader, well, there's a difference between seeing a problem and coming with some research or some suggestions or a solution, or just dumping it onto your boss's lap.
Right. I agree. So it looks like the next way to add value is to tell leaders what they need to hear, not what they want to hear.
That one is really hard, right? Like, nobody wants to give news that somebody doesn't want to hear.
Right. Especially when it's bad news or, like, for me, I think it's all, there's a couple of steps to delivering news. And this can be applied, personal, professional, however you want to look at it. One, it's about the approach. in body language, in your tone. You know, if I run up to you and say, "Oh my God, you're never gonna believe what happened," you know, versus like, "Hey, so you know something happened." I think that's those two situations are going to be taken differently. I also think that timing, like if your boss is on the elevator and running in the door to get to a 9 a.m. Zoom meeting and it's already 9:05, that's probably not the best time to give them bad news.
Or when your husband's sitting in front of the football game.
Right, right. Not the best time. And then, you know, besides timing, I think more so of environment. Obviously, that's, you know, if you're going to deliver
Yeah.
bad news, you don't want a bunch of people around.
point.
You want to make sure that if it's, you know, kind of private, that there's not everybody around listening, or you're not in a public place like in a lunchroom, you know, or break room or something like that. Be, you know, kind of tactful and respectful. And choose your words and kind of how you deliver the message.
Yeah, really good point, Maria. So it is important to be able to deliver news that your boss may not want to hear. There are some things that you need to think about when you do that. You need to be honest. You need to make sure that you are just strictly stating the facts and you're not putting your emotions anywhere in there. You need to kind of take inventory of yourself and just think like, do I feel like I have to say this thing because it serves me?
Right.
Or am I saying this because it serves the company? Right? Be respectful when you say it. And again, maybe this is a problem that should have been researched ahead of time. So maybe you've got some alternative solutions happening. And then to your point, Maria, so important to make sure you think about how you say it, when you say it, where you say it when you're delivering these.
So the how, when, and where.
How, when, and where. Yeah, absolutely. So another way that we can add value to those people that that we work with or for is to go the second mile, right? Putting in the extra effort, going above and beyond. And this requires us to kind of like be proactive and take initiative about things.
And that second mile, they say, is usually a lot less traveled. And it's like that for a reason. Being proactive and always doing more than. I know that if I feel respected and if I feel appreciated by my boss, I'm going to want to go more. I'm going to want to do more, go above and beyond, and just, you know, to make them happy and to lighten their load.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you think about, hey, like what sort of environment, you know, as a supervisor, can I create that's going to encourage somebody to go that extra mile, go a little bit above and beyond? It is the environment of like appreciation. Like I appreciate what you do. I see what you do. And the thing is, everybody's not in that environment.
Right.
Right. But I think that for us to sit and say, well, my boss doesn't appreciate me, so I don't think that I'm going to go that extra mile, is a little bit counterintuitive, because I feel like if you start doing these things to add value to your boss, so these are things that you can do regardless of who your boss is or how they act, right? You might have the worst boss in the world, but you do these things, you're going to prove, you're going to make yourself invaluable to the company, to your boss eventually, right? Like that attitude's going to turn around and change. A lot of times when we have issues with somebody, not all the time, a lot of times when we're having issues or like struggling, it's because we're not doing everything that we could do. And if we are, or if we believe we are, we're maybe speaking a different language, because, you know, sometimes, you know, going maybe to the 5 love languages, which is a really good book, I think. But maybe like your boss sees value in other things, right? Or they see, there's like the 5 languages of appreciation. I think there's that book also. But you just may be speaking different languages, but I guarantee you, if you start doing some of these things so that add value to your boss, one of them is going to make a difference.
Well, and not just that, even if it doesn't make a difference by some chance with your boss, the right people are going to notice.
Yeah.
Maybe your boss's boss will notice. Maybe a different department head would notice and be like, I want this person on my team, and it's an upgrade from where you currently are. And even if somebody higher up doesn't notice you, your coworkers will, your teammates will. It may change their attitude. And then before you know it, you've kind of created this positive vibe in your whole team, which makes your day smoother, which lightens your boss's load.
Yeah. We always talk about how we are responsible for how we act and react to situations. So these things that we talk about, how to lighten your leader's load, how to add value and build influence, they are independent of the actual person that you report to.
I think so too.
So next thing is taking ownership of your work.
I like that one. That one is taking ownership of your work is the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you make a mistake on a report, or you send an email to everybody and forget the attachment sometimes, taking ownership, my apologies, my mistake, going back, fixing it, correcting it, handling the problem, I think that's a huge deal. And then if you have good work, be like, hey, this is really great work. Like, I created this report. I know that my boss likes to see certain reports in a certain way, and they don't always come across my desk that way, so I have to tweak them a little bit to his liking. And so, he's pretty proud of my work, and I am too, taking that ownership, both good and bad.
Taking pride, taking ownership in your work, that's only going to bring value not only to your boss, but to you as well, right? Taking pride in what you do, feeling like you make a difference. And the other thing is making sure that you're very clear on what's expected of you, because it's really hard to, do a good job if you don't know what good looks like. And so if you are unclear, then think through, how do I have that conversation that helps clarify this for
Ask
me?
questions.
Because as a leader, right, that's going to add more value to me if I haven't been clear, or again, right, we're speaking different languages, and I think that I've told you everything that I want done, and you and you are unsure of what's expected of you, then if you just go and do whatever you feel like doing, but you're not very clear, and then you come back to me with a product that's not the product that I was expecting, then that is going to increase my load as opposed to decreasing my load.
And possibly create some friction there too.
Yeah, exactly.
Unnecessarily.
And you've done extra work and all that. So it's helpful to know what's expected of you. And if you don't, work on having those conversations. One of the things I think as women we could do more of is being clear and speaking up and having conversations that sometimes, we might be a little intimidated to have.
Sometimes it's uncomfortable. I get that, to ask your leader. And sometimes, for example, I may take a little detour from Faith's office, because if I say, hey, is there something I can help you with today? 100% for sure, I'm going to be sitting here with her doing a video for you. So I know sometimes that can be awkward, because if you ask your leader what's expected of you, they might change it. It could be you're self-conscious because you're doing the wrong thing the entire time when your leader wants you to do something else. But at the end of that conversation, as long as both parties walk away with a clear working knowledge of what the expectations are, you're set up for success.
It's going to be better for both of you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Be proactive, right? We talked about this a little bit already, but that is that is the person that goes the extra mile, but that's the person that says, I feel like this would be of value to the company, or this would be of value to my boss, or, you know what I mean? I'm going to go ahead and do this thing that I know needs to be done before somebody comes and tells me it has to be done.
Right. It's way better to do that than when you have 10 minutes of downtime, scroll on Facebook consistently, when you could have took that 10 minutes and revamped a report like I was talking about earlier, something to help lighten your leader's load.
But don't revamp the report until you've already done your other regular job.
Yes. Make sure all of your attachments are sent on your emails first.
Yeah, exactly. Another way to add value to your leader, lighten their load, is to communicate effectively, right? Again, I'll go back to the micromanaging. I don't want to have to micromanage anybody. But if I'm not sure what you're doing, right? And I have a list of things that need to be done, and I have to go to you and say, hey, let's talk about it. What's on your plate? What are you doing? Da 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 da. Right? It's very helpful if instead of me having to come to you and ask you that, you're clear with me and you communicate clearly with me, like, hey, just so you know, this is what's on my plate today. I've got to get this and this finished, or I might need your help with that. Or the other thing is, like, I've given projects to people, expected them to be done by a certain time. So then I'll go ask about the project, and the person will just be like, oh yeah, I didn't finish that, but that was because there was an issue here. And I'm like, well, when do you think you were going to communicate that issue to me?
Right, when it was due, or
like, I can't help you
if you don't know what the problem is.
if I don't know what it is. And so I think that's something that is really important for us to focus on also.
Yeah, communication is very important. I mean, I know for myself, there have been times where I have lacked in communicating with my boss, and at the end of the day, my boss will call me and say, what'd you get done today? And I'm like, oh, I've been knee deep in this and I got this done. And then all of a sudden I'll send 27 things over to my boss. And he's like, that's great that you got that done. But then it's kind of like, now I just offloaded 27 things for him to look at that he wasn't aware was kind of coming down the pipeline. You know what I mean? So I think it's very important. Just kind of, throughout the day, just be like, hey, I've been working on this, or, here's my progress on this. And even if you can't meet your deadline, I mean, I don't want to say it, but it's okay, as long as I think you're clear in communicating, like, hey, this may be an hour late, or this may be, that'll go a lot further than it not being done.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Like, the issue is not that, oh, I wasn't able to get it done. The issue is that, well, you didn't communicate to me that it wasn't going to be done. Right? Like, that's the bigger piece. And then finally, when we talk about showing or adding value and lightening your leader's load, show support to your leader. Like, all of us love to be encouraged. It is something that kind of boosts us up and lifts our day. Show that you support them. Show that you're part of the team. Encourage them when you can. I think all of that makes a huge difference.
It does. And, part of a good leader's role is to encourage their teammates, and encourage all of their direct reports, everybody around them, but kind of who gives that encouragement. I know in the very first series that we talked about filling up your own cup so that you can pour out to others. Well, if your leader is consistently pouring out to others and nobody's filling up their cup, eventually that's going to run out.
Yeah.
So, for us, we can help fill up our leader's cup too.
Yeah, I think it's nice. Just say a nice word to them. Tell them they're doing a good job. Don't only always be coming to them with problems.
Right.
That's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good conversation. This is one way that we can add value and in turn build our influence with our boss and our supervisor. So thanks, Maria.
Thanks for having me.
See you, ladies.
Bye, ladies.